you seeing anything with simplifying the process? Because I mean, I've had a lot of guests, they've lost a lot of money because, they got scammed or they put in the wrong code or something like that. And that's the fear with a lot of people. And to get to the masses, I mean, for me, like say a system like Revolut, it's very simple to be sending stuff like that. So that if it was done in a way like that for the blockchain technology, but the problem is, like most people, they're terrified of actually sending it. So you've got a certain small percentage that are okay with this, they're comfortable with this. But we're not talking like, I don't know what percentage of it, but just 95% of the population still aren't using this. And can you see something being developed, or is there something in the pipeline that's going to simplify it?
Well, part of it is interesting. It's one of the hardest things is that I would say, and I'm going to throw this crazy number out there, that from what we look at, 90 to 95% of all stable coins are backed by Bitcoin and Ethereum. And the reason being is that it's easy to use Hyperledger. It's easy to like stand up a blockchain to, build a tokenized asset. But then the problem is as currency rises and falls, it affects 90% of all tokens because they're all backed by the same two currencies. And so one of the things that we need to see, and I had this conversation with the bank yesterday, is, one of my fellows, one of our MBA, young associates was like, before that call was like, why aren't they using a stable coin and backing it by US currency in order to move money from one place to another? And it was like this really simplistic view of, yes, he's totally right. But for them, I said, when I had this conversation with the bank, I said, well, here's the reason that you want to be careful with it. And this is actually the reason why, the failure of the last couple of exchanges, we saw, the failure of the US exchange that went down and the other one that was in Canada. I always space out on the names, but everyone here will remember these grand failures of exchanges, is that assets were tokenized. The underlying assets were fine, but the more you trade and move money around, guess what happens? Is those coins and those tokens increase in value because you're moving them. Well, what you don't want to do is hang your hat on those tokens as a value or an asset, because inherently, without an ability of liquidity, they're useless. So I remember talking to a founder out of the UK that said that was moving currency and had built a tokenized system, which was incredible. Loved what he was doing. And I looked at his balance sheet, and there was this massive amount of like, hey, wait a minute, what is this balance sheet? Oh, these are the tokens, and it keeps on rising and rising. And I said, well, how are you going to get rid of those tokens if you have value? Well, I'm going to put them on FTX. A month later, FTX went down because of the same thing. They were literally putting credit against those rise of tokens. And so that's the issue, is that we see this like inherent value being created. You want to do something with it. But the reality is, until you have access to liquidity, there's no point. And it was funny enough, because in the beginning of when we started investing in blockchains, we said the real innovation will come out of private blockchains. And we had a lot of other tech investors that said, you're wrong. It's going to be public blockchains all the way. And I was like, nope. It's going to be. And guess what? The successful blockchains are private blockchains you've never heard of. You have, years ago, JP Morgan moves money from one office from treasury to treasury using their own private blockchains, using a JPM coin.